we will now move on to the second presentation, second invited talk of this session, and happy to have our very good friend, Johannes Vrana from Germany. He's going to be speaking to us on the world of NDE 4.0. Let the journey begin, and I'm sure he has very exciting stuff to share, as very recently the book also was released. So I won't steal his thunder, but let me introduce him for the benefit of the others. Dr. Johannes Vrana is an entrepreneur, physicist, trailblazer, consultant, author, and speaker, and a trainer with 15+ years experience in NDE and 20+ in data science. His work ranges from applied ultrasonic testing to quantum optics, from quality assurance to science, and from large-scale industries to startups. Some of the highlights of his work include a PhD on induction thermography, and he's also a former chairman of the Siemens NDE Council and implementation of SAFT into serial production. He is leading multiple groups in national and international societies, mainly regarding NDE 4.0 and automated ultrasonic testing. He's a well-published editor of the Journal of NDE, editor-in-chief of the Handbook of NDE 4.0, and has received multiple awards. His company, Vrana GmbH, specializes in NDE consulting and solutions, R&D, training, and software development. They also offer holistic cyber-physical solutions, including industrial Internet of Things integration, digital twin design, and value creation from data. So with that introduction, we have no doubt we have with us a very eminent and knowledgeable speaker on subject of NDE 4.0. Many of you would have heard him, seen his YouTube channel, so he's not a very new face to us in India. But nevertheless, having him for NDE 2021 as an invited speaker, our pleasure. Over to you, Johannes.
Thank you, and hello and welcome to the world of NDE 4.0. My name is Johannes Vrana, and today is a great day because I'm back to this great conference, NDE 2021. So thanks a lot for the invitation. And I really hope that perhaps next year we can all meet in person in India, face to face. But situation doesn't allow it currently, so let's do it virtually once more. Now, I guess most of you know that NDE 4.0, that's the confluence of NDT and NDE with the emerging technologies. So it's the confluence of the physical world we have with NDT, NDE, and the cyber world of those emerging technologies. And kind of as a first word, in my eyes, NDE 4.0, it requires serious collaboration. And what I will be presenting in this presentation will be a vision of where I see that NDE could be in 5 or in 10 years. And it could be that this vision could be a little bit overwhelming. So for me, it is important, the most important message you can take from this presentation is take it stepwise. Take it stepwise. Take it as a journey. You will not be able to do this just now, to buy it now. No, it is a process you have to follow. It's a journey you will be going on. And for each of us, that journey will be different. But before I really get into the topic of NDE 4.0 and show you the vision I have, I will show you a little bit my path, how I got into NDE 4.0. And this all started with me studying physics. And yeah, while studying physics, I really got into a topic which is currently getting quite a hot topic within the emerging technology world, and that's quantum computers. And here you can see a younger version of myself that was back in 2004, and we were working on the entanglement of a single atom with a single photon. And if you look really carefully, yep, right over here in the back, you see a chamber. And within that chamber, we have a single atom. Yeah, for sure, you cannot see it, but actually that experiment was successful and we were able to show that entanglement. And I don't want to get into the details of it, but entanglement, that is really the basis how a quantum computer works. And entanglement is also the basis how you can actually have a communication between one quantum computer and another quantum computer. And this experiment here is really kind of the basic for a future communication channel between two different quantum computers. Now you can see this was 2004, and slowly quantum computers are getting reality. In my eyes, it will still be another 5 to 10 years before they really become a tool we can use as everyday scientists or everyday users. So for me back then, this was kind of too sciencey, so to say. And this is kind of how I got into NDT, because I was looking for something more application driven. And my first step towards NDT was working for thermography. And I was doing research on the basics of induction thermography. And if you look for it, you can find some of the papers I have done back then. And in my eyes, it was a really fascinating work I was able to do on induction thermography. Now, after about 4 years, I then started with Siemens and I got into ultrasonic testing. And here you can see an automated inspection system. So automated inspection, that was really my main topic I worked on for a lot of years. And we did work on, something like, what is a good, or what is an examination grid so that we can have a good POD. What we also implemented SAFT for a serial production inspection for those large rotor forgings, which you can see here. And during that time, and that was kind of the point where I got into NDE 4.0. Actually, a colleague of mine, a design engineer, he approached me and he said, Johannes, we are working on a new version of our fracture mechanics models. And what we need to improve them, we need knowledge. We need knowledge from destructive testing. We need knowledge from NDT. We need knowledge from whatever. So what we did is we built up a database and we integrated all of the results from all our NDT into that database. And they used it to improve their fracture mechanics. It was a huge success. The lifetime of the turbines, we were able to expand them by a couple of years, actually, just by using the data, which we already had, because we were doing the NDT. But what we were doing, we did the NDT, we used it for quality assurance, so saying, well, is that a component we can use or we cannot use? But then we put it into folders and we put it somewhere in the back of into an archive. But with that project, we actually started using those results from NDT for a different purpose. And what we did is we created out of the data of NDT, we created additional value. And that was the moment I knew, okay, this is what I want to do when going forward. Because this was for me clear, this is the business case for NDT for the future. And that is for me what NDE 4.0 is about. But now let's take one step back before we really get into NDE 4.0. NDT, what is NDT? In my eyes, NDT, it started with using the human senses to actually inspect components. Right from the beginning, when society started producing goods, producing assets, actually people had the need to see, okay, is that thing I produce, is that something I can use, or will the sword break once I use it once? So they started using their human senses, like listening, looking, touching, smelling, or licking. Now, pretty soon, or right after a couple of years, with electricity, with additional physical and chemical knowledge, we were actually able to use analog technology to extend our human ranges, to make X-ray visible to us, to make ultrasonics, something we can actually grasp. And that actually led to technologies like here the X-ray, which actually allowed a view into our components. So this is for me the second revolution. And then we came to the third revolution, using digital technology. Like here, this automated inspection system, this is an automated ultrasonic inspection system. And what changed between how we did NDT before and how we do NDE now is really we changed the format how we store the results. Before that, the results were stored on an analog film or on some analog media, and now we're using digital formats. Like we can store it on a hard drive, we can store it on a CD, and so on. So that is the third revolution. Now, if we talk about fourth revolution, people always say, oh, the third revolution is digital, and they also say, oh, the fourth revolution, that's also digital. So what's really the difference between the two of them? And that comes down to kind of those three words. What we talked about up to the moment was digitization. So let's say take a tape of music and create a CD out of it. A CD is a digital media, a compact cassette is an analog media. Or I take a sheet of paper, I put it on a scanner and create a JPEG out of it. The JPEG is a digitized version of my paper. That is the third revolution. Now we are coming to digitalization. And digitalization, this is kind of on the way between the third and the fourth revolution. And digitalization is really, this is now using digital technologies to simplify processes. So a very simple example for digitalization is, if you have your word processor, in the beginning it was mainly for typing stuff. And that is kind of digitization. But then they introduced a kind of a search and replace so that you had a tool to improve your processes. That is a first digitalization step. Now, if we think about an ERP system or an NDE workflow system, or even an AI, those are all digitalization solutions because they allow us to improve our processes. And now we're coming to digital transformation. And digital transformation is perhaps a little bit difficult to grasp because digital transformation, it's nothing we have really experienced up to the moment as a success story. But slowly, the success stories are breaking free. One of kind of the first success story for digital transformation is the cell phone. Because with the cell phone, actually what we created a new ecosystem, a new cyber ecosystem, where it allowed all kinds of apps to be installed on that device, all kinds of apps to communicate with each other, all kinds of sensors we have integrated into our cell phone, all kinds of sensors I can attach to my cell phone. This is digital transformation. Digital transformation is we create a new ecosystem, so that a new cyber ecosystem, so that we all can actually benefit from it. And if you think about it, how the cell phone has changed our life, this was a real disruption of our life, even that perhaps most of us felt it more like, a nice thing to have. And that's for me, NDE 4.0. NDE 4.0, it's a digital transformation of our NDE ecosystem. So if we take one step back, have a look once more onto the revolution. We started with handcraft and human perception. We got into using simple tools, into mechanization. We got into electricity and analog technology. We got into digital technology with the third revolution. Now we're getting into interconnected cyber-physical. So why are we doing all of this? And yeah, it's getting pretty obvious. If we look here on Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we are doing this for us as humans. All those revolutions we were doing to improve our lives, to get to the next step within Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs pyramid. If you think about it, if we think about how was the life before the first industrial revolution? Yeah, people were doing handcraft. And actually, life wasn't really good back then. People had to work 80 hours a week or even more. If they were lucky, they had one complete set of clothes. They had boots, perhaps they had one set of boots, which wasn't just pieces. They were lucky if they had water they could drink every day. They were lucky if they had enough food. So the physiological needs were really the thing they were striving for. And then came the first revolution, at least somewhere in the Western countries, which brought employment. Kind of everybody got a job. Everybody had a certain income. And everybody was suddenly able to afford something. Especially clothes, because the first revolution was about textile. And with the first revolution, textile became affordable. Clothes became affordable. And if you think about, yeah, the amount of clothes you have at your home nowadays, that's a different story than one set. So people moved up by one step due to the first revolution. Now, second revolution. Now, people had a job, they had health, they had food, they had clothes. So they were beginning to think about, okay, I want to spend time with my family, with friends. I want to have intimacy. And what do you need for that? You have to reduce your work time. And that's what happens during the second revolution. Work time dropped from 80 to about 50 hours a week. Third revolution, now we are getting into the revolution we all know out of our hearts. I have the bigger car, I have a boat, I have a plane. This is esteem, this is self-esteem, this is achievements. So with the third revolution, we were getting up there. And now with the fourth revolution, what happens with the fourth revolution? We are giving tasks, repetitive tasks, we are giving it to the computer so that we as humans can really focus on what we are good at. And that is being creative, that is being spontaneous, and that is solving problems. So I have heard some comments that Industry 4.0 is about all those emerging technologies. It's about the digital world. And that Industry 5.0 is about bringing the human back into the game. And I think that's not the case, to be nice. For me, Industry 4.0, the same as all the revolutions before, were always something we were doing already for the human. So it's not shifting everything to digital and then bringing the human back into the game. No, the human is always in the center of all those revolutions. Now, if I talk to people about NDE 4.0, I'm getting answers like NDE 4.0, that's the use of AI for NDE. And we have seen it in Ika's presentation. this is a really powerful use case. If I talk to other people, they are telling me NDE 4.0, that's about using augmented reality for a better visualization of NDE. Or NDE 4.0, that's NDE on additive manufacture parts. Or NDE 4.0, that's the use of the cell phone for NDE. And you can already imagine, they're all correct and they're all not correct. They're all correct because those are all pieces to the big picture of NDE 4.0. And they are all very valuable tools. They're all very valuable tools which improve our processes. So they're all digitalization solutions. And we need all of them, and it's great that people are working on them. But for me, we have to go one step further. And this will take perhaps 5 or 10 years. And that is then going, from an ecosystem to an ecosystem. From all the proprietary interfaces we currently have in the NDE community to opening up, to providing our data to other players, to integrating NDE with a digitally transformed industrial environment, with a digitally transformed infrastructure, with a digitally transformed building, whatever. Now, I know this is where it's getting a little bit hard perhaps to follow, but let's take one step back and let's have a look into the ecosystem which we currently have in NDE. And this ecosystem is really centered about the asset, like here the airplane. And we have companies producing such an airplane. We have companies owning and operating it. We have our inspectors making sure that the airplane flies and that we are safe. And we have the equipment producers who produce the equipment we want to use on the airplane. We have universities supporting us, regulatory bodies writing all the standards we have, inspection service providers and inspector training schools, certification bodies, and so on. And many more, like consultants like myself. So this is the current ecosystem we have. And we can already see this ecosystem is already asset-centered. But how does it currently work? It works by talking to other people. That's how we exchange information. That's how we exchange knowledge. Now let's see, how can we do a digital transformation of this ecosystem? How can we transform this ecosystem into a cyber ecosystem, into the NDE 4.0 ecosystem? Now, we already talked about the asset. If we look at the asset has a value stream. We start with a new idea for an airplane. We design the new airplane. We buy all the raw material for all the individual components. The individual components are manufactured in the supply chain. They get inspected and they get assembled to an airplane. That airplane is then owned by somebody and operated by somebody. We have to do a lot of service inspections, and at some point an end of life is coming. And what we can do is we can take the NDE data. We can perhaps improve it with an AI and look at it with an AR, and then, learn something about how we do our NDE. So those are small feedback loops, small cyber physical loops we are currently already doing, which help us to gain more knowledge about our inspection. So that is digitalization. But now we can also take the NDE data and do a feedback all the way back to the design of the asset. Or we can use the NDE data and include it in a predictive maintenance scheme. Or we can even take that data and go all the way back to the design and the idea. And now you can see, now we are starting to connect on a cyber world, in a digital world, different players within the ecosystem. And this is the transformation of the ecosystem I'm speaking about. And those cyber-physical loops are the core to it. And it's not just one value stream we have to look at. We have many other value streams, like one for the production of NDE equipment, one for training, certification, recertification of inspectors. And between all of those different value streams, we can have data exchange. We can have information exchange. And with that information exchange, actually, we are producing a digitally transformed NDE ecosystem, which for me is the NDE 4.0 ecosystem. And about each and every one of those loops has a couple of core elements. And this is where we are now getting back to those emerging technologies. So those cyber-physical loops, most of them, they start with the industrial Internet of Things, using all of the physical data, converting it to digital data, and then using semantic interoperability to fuse all of that data and to create information out of the data. This information is then used in digital twins. And a digital twin has kind of three different blocks. One is for getting all the information, one is for data processing, and then we have the visualization and action. And the middle part, the data processing, this is where we can use classical computers. This is where we can use an AI. This is where we can actually use a quantum computer. And then we are getting to a visualization of the data, about the results of the data processing, about the cross correlations. And this is where we gain knowledge. And finally, out of that knowledge, we are creating action. And this is kind of closing the cyber-physical loop. And this is how our emerging technologies get connected with each other. Now, I know at this point, perhaps I lost a couple of you, but don't panic. Don't panic. This, I already told you, it's a journey you have to take. It's something you should be taking stepwise. And it's perhaps something where you need somebody to take you with him. And it's something we have to do together. And that's why we actually built the NDE 4.0 group within the International Committee of Non-Destructive Testing. There's also one within the European Federation. There's also one within the German Society or the American Society. But you can see here in the ICNDT group, we actually have here Krishnan Balasubramanian here representing India. By now also Shamsundar has joined this group. So you have good Indian representation. This group is now also, it started to do some real work. We are working on a guideline or on a document, how to create a guideline for NDE 4.0. We started working on, okay, how can we do international collaboration on R&D projects? How can we actually do international collaboration on standardizing interfaces and stuff like that? So this group is becoming more and more active. And it's more and more subgroups which are being created, and just follow what we are doing. And perhaps in one of those groups, you could be a valuable participant to actually join our work. Another big step to NDE 4.0 and this joint collaboration and doing everything and getting the community together will be the International Conference on NDE 4.0. Now, with the current situation, we have to shift and shift and shift this conference, but in my eyes, this date will work. It will be October 24 to 26, 2022 in Berlin in Germany. And we all will meet there and talk about NDE 4.0, talk about AI, talk about augmented reality, talk about all those topics we have to have. And we are trying not only to bring NDT guys into this conference, but experts also from all the emerging technology topics. If you want more information, yeah, we already have 3 special issues and 3 of the 3 channels for NDE. The first one was materials evaluation. The second one was the RNDE. And the third one, and actually also the fourth one, was within the channel of NDE. And we also have 2 books. The Handbook of NDE 4.0. Now, I don't like the name handbook. It's perhaps a 2 handbook because it's about 1,400 pages of content. It's 50 chapters written by 50 different groups of people. Each chapter has about 50 pages. So you can imagine the content within there. And it's a lot of in-depth information on the single topics we have in the NDE 4.0 world. Now, I don't think you want to buy the whole book. Number one, it's very big. And number two, also the cost point of this book will be about €1,000 or $1,000. But buy the individual chapters. Look on the chapters are all available online, and you can look through all the abstracts and really pick the ones which you want to read and just buy those chapters. Now the book, which is a lot more affordable, and perhaps for a start is also the better book, is here The World of NDE 4.0 book, which was published in end of August this year by Singh and myself. And you can see this is more what I would call a handbook. And this takes you on the journey to NDE 4.0. It contains a lot of details, but we try to keep it on a level so that everybody can understand it, so that we can really take you on the journey towards NDE 4.0, so that you don't need to panic, so that you can take it stepwise, so that you can really look for the partners you need. And last but not least, the NDE 4.0 YouTube channel. Now, NDE 4.0 YouTube channel, I try to put 1 video every week onto the YouTube channel. The last weeks, I wasn't really that successful. It was about 1 video every 2 weeks. But this is a lot of information about NDE 4.0, and it's all for free. So get online, and this will also help you to get started on your journey towards the world of NDE 4.0. So thanks for your attention. And unfortunately, I think I just made it within half an hour. So I think Shamsunder will not have any time for questions. But you all know how to reach me.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Jonas. Yeah, thanks again for a very fantastic coverage of NDE 4.0. I think, people who probably are listening to you for the first time have got a feel for that, and of course, many of them, I'm sure, are listening to you for beyond the first time, because you were there in last year's conference, and of course, many people are following you on your YouTube channel. So I think that is an excellent coverage once again, and the fact that you've been every time you give a presentation, the number of literature or books keep increasing, so which is very good. The latest book, of course, The World of NDE 4.0, released in August, is the new addition to your portfolio. So I'm sure people can reach out to you. The email ID is given here, or of course, buy any of the books and read. And I think Jonas is always open to a conversation. So please feel free to reach out to him. He's based in Germany, so time zone wise, not too bad. Of course, he's very busy, so you'll have to get an appointment from him. So, but I'm sure he'll accommodate your request. But yes, as he said, we are all here in this game together. India is also represented in the ICNDT Special Interest Group. So we are doing our best to spread the word around. And it is people like Johannes and Rippy and many others around the globe who are helping us in India also to set the stage and take NDE 4.0 to the next level. So thank you, Johannes. I know we are a little behind schedule, so I would skip the question, but everybody knows how to reach you. So I'm sure you see probably some emails flowing, or any other ways of communication by which people will get back to you. So thanks once again for accepting our invitation to be again a speaker at NDE 2021, our annual event, and for this excellent presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.